All right, let's have some fun. We've talked before about how Donald Trump's English language skills aren't the best. Donald Trump is a native English speaker. Donald Trump doesn't speak any other language that I'm aware of, but he doesn't read, period. His reading comprehension, as a result, is visibly compromised when he has to read anything other than the sort of lightest material. We all know that that's not new. Yesterday, Donald Trump met with French President Emmanuel Macron on the sidelines, or I guess we would say in advance of the NATO summit that's taking place in the United Kingdom. And I realized when I was watching the video, Macron can better express himself in English, which is Trump's native and only language, and not the native language for Emmanuel Macron, than Donald Trump himself can express himself. So I'm not literally saying Macron speaks better English than Trump. I am saying Macron seems to be better able to do sort of hypothetical, multidimensional thinking out loud than Donald Trump. Macron is better able to express ideas in more nuanced ways than Donald Trump, even in his non-native language of English. In this video, you are going to see Donald Trump first talk about capturing ISIS fighters in Syria, sort of stumbling around. It's unclear what point Trump is trying to make. At one point, he asks Macron, hey, do you want some nice ISIS fighters? It's all very weird. It's not making any sense. And then you'll see the French president take control of the situation, talking more seriously about the reality that despite what Donald Trump might say, ISIS has not been defeated. And you will see that even in the English as a second language spoken by Emmanuel Macron, he elucidates more thoughtfulness and nuance than Donald Trump could ever hope to when talking about this issue. Let's take a look. If you're watching, you will notice Trump doing this thing where when Trump feels emasculated or upset at what someone next to him is saying or doing, he will sort of look down and have a particular look on his face. You're going to see Trump do it. And then after Donald Trump, when Donald Trump gets a chance to talk again, he has nothing left to do but to just attack Macron by calling it a non-answer merely because Donald Trump doesn't like it. Let's take a look. A lot to find and see in this clip.
We have a tremendous amount of captured fighters, ISIS fighters over in Syria, and they're all under lock and key. But many are from France, many are from Germany, many are from UK. They're mostly from Europe. And some of the countries are agreeing. I have not spoken to the president about that. Would you like some nice ISIS fighters?
Look,
I can give them
if
to
you
you.
look at the situation,
You can take everyone you want.
Let's be serious. The very large number of fighters you have on the ground are ISIS fighters coming from Syria, from Iraq, and the region. It is true that you have foreign fighters coming from Europe, but this is a tiny minority of the overall problem we have in the region. And I think number one priority, because it's not yet finished, is to get rid of ISIS and these terrorist groups. This is our number one priority. And it's not yet done. I'm sorry to say that. Yes, you still have fighters in this region, in Syria and now in Iraq, and more and more. And the whole destabilization of the region makes the situation more difficult to fix the situation against ISIS. Second, some of these foreign fighters are being judged in Iraq because of the deeds precisely they acted in this very region. And we will have a case-by-case approach. We have a humanitarian approach for children, already organized, and we will have a case-by-case approach. But for me, the very first objective in the region is to finish war against ISIS. And don't make any mistake. Your number one problem are not the foreign fighters. This is the ISIS fighters in the region. And you have more and more of these fighters due to the situation today.
This is why he's a great politician, because that was one of the greatest non-answers I've ever heard. And that's okay.
You can tell that when Donald Trump isn't pleased and he feels emasculated, he does that thing where he looks down at the ground while the other person is talking. And then, of course, Trump just has to attack Macron rather than addressing the substance, which he either didn't understand or probably wasn't listening to, because Macron did talk for 90 straight seconds there. Once again, we started the show today with Donald Trump being the embarrassment that he is and being made fun of by world leaders. Video of Emmanuel Macron and Boris Johnson and Justin Trudeau just laughing at Trump, because Trump is literally the laughingstock of the world right now, and it's embarrassing and it's sad. And here it is once again, Donald Trump embarrassing the United States on the world stage, getting called out on his lies in real time by the French President Emmanuel Macron. But it's not going to hurt Trump very much, because Trumpists will see this. They'll also zone out during those 90 seconds that Macron is speaking. They will just see Trump say, look at that non-answer comment, and think, wow, what a zinger. Trump really got him. Trump is strong and Trump won. Can you imagine? Would you like some nice ISIS fighters? Trump asks Macron. When you see Trump sitting next to real diplomats like Emmanuel Macron, doesn't mean you agree with everything Macron stands for or his policy or whatever. But when you see Trump next to a real diplomat, it shows you how in over his head Donald Trump is, particularly at these international events. Sometimes to Americans, when Trump is with a world leader who doesn't speak English and you have to go through live translation, the difference in intelligence, in knowledge, in tact, in cleverness, it's not noticeable because of that language barrier, because of the fact that we're going through live translation to hear what the other world leader is saying. When the other world leader speaks English, even accented English learned as a second language, as is the case with the French president, the credibility gap, the critical thinking gap, the knowledge gap, it becomes unavoidably clear. And that's what happened there in that video. Trump totally out of his element, Trump totally out of his league. And the next question is what will come of the NATO summit in the UK? And I got a lot of emails about this. By the time you listen to today's show or watch clips from today's show, we may know what the dynamic was at the main meetings of the NATO summit. Of course, it's 5-6 hours ahead of the East Coast there in the UK. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of caution being taken to prevent Donald Trump from just ruining the meetings. Donald Trump has been very critical, even coming from a place of ignorance, but very critical of the relationship of different countries to NATO, of NATO in and of itself. As I mentioned earlier, Emmanuel Macron playing a little bit of toddler reverse psychology with Donald Trump and getting Donald Trump to defend NATO merely by making sort of narrow and specific critique of NATO. There is fear. There is fear among Trump staffers and among other world leaders and their staffers of what is Donald Trump's presence at this summit going to do. We will cover it tomorrow. We will see ultimately what comes of it. Let me know what you predict will happen. Maybe you'll already know by the time today's episode is published. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. The next video is coming soon, but before you go to that, please hit subscribe and like. We're running a test. We believe that if everybody does this, this will hugely boost us in YouTube's algorithm, and then everybody wins. I'll report back to you how this works. Make sure before you go on to that next video, hit subscribe, hit like. Thank you so much.